The massive doors opened with a sound like thunder. Ambassador David Reynolds walked into the council chamber and felt his breath catch in his throat. The room stretched upward for what seemed like miles. Crystalline walls curved into a dome that showed the stars themselves spinning overhead. Hundreds of platforms floated in the air, each one holding a different alien species. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that David's mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. This was the Galactic Council, the government that ruled 200 civilizations across the galaxy. And today they were judging Earth. David walked to the center of the circular floor. His footsteps echoed in the massive space. Above him, alien eyes watched from every direction. Some had 4 eyes. Some had clusters of eyes like insects. Some glowed with their own light. All of them stared at him with the same expression. They thought he was nothing, a primitive creature from a backward world. Something to be dealt with quickly. High Arbiter Calther spoke first. His voice boomed through the chamber, translated instantly into every language in the galaxy. The Vryn diplomat had 4 eyes and skin that looked like purple leather. He gestured with a clawed hand, and a hologram appeared in the air above David's head. The hologram showed planets exploding. 12 worlds turned into clouds of debris and fire. Billions of lives ended in seconds. The images were clear and terrible. "You stand accused of genocide," Calther said. His 4 eyes narrowed as he looked down at David. 6 months ago, your species destroyed 12 Dravix war planets. Each planet held billions of citizens. You killed them all with weapons that should not exist. Weapons that violate every law of warfare we have established over 10,000 years. David stood perfectly still. He wore his military uniform even though he was a diplomat now. Old habits were hard to break. His hands stayed clasped behind his back. His face showed nothing. "The Dravix Empire demands justice," Calther continued. "They want your species locked in your home system for 1,000 years. They want payment for every life lost. They want your weapons destroyed and your military dissolved. They want us to forget what they did to Mars," David said quietly. Silence fell across the chamber. No one interrupted the High Arbiter. It simply was not done. The floating platform shifted as hundreds of aliens leaned forward to hear what would come next. David reached into his jacket and pulled out a small crystal. He held it up for everyone to see. "Mars colony held 4 million people," he said. His voice was calm, but somehow it carried to every corner of the enormous room. Scientists, teachers, farmers, children. They were building a new world, making a dead planet into something alive. The Dravix Empire destroyed them from orbit. They burned Mars until nothing remained but glass and ash. They broadcasted on every frequency. They wanted Earth to watch our people die. He threw the crystal forward. It clattered across the polished floor. A beam of light caught it and lifted it into the air. The hologram changed. Now it showed Mars burning, cities melting, domes collapsing, people running and screaming as fire fell from the sky. A woman held a small child as the world ended. Around them, the chamber filled with the sounds of that last transmission, screams, prayers, goodbye. Messages sent to loved ones on Earth who could only watch, helplessly. "They called it a demonstration," David said. "A lesson. They said humanity needed to learn its place in a galaxy ruled by elder species. 4 million people died to teach us where we belong." An insect-like alien named Malther spoke from his platform. "The Dravix claim your colony refused to pay passage tribute. Imperial law allows punishment for such offenses." "Mars was a civilian colony," David said. His voice never rose, but something in it made the aliens shift uncomfortably. "No weapons. No military bases. Just families trying to build something beautiful. And when we came to this council asking for justice, what did you tell us?" No one answered. "You said the matter would be investigated," David continued. "You said complaints would be reviewed. You said territorial disputes fell into gray areas of law. 6 months have passed. The Dravix Empire has faced no consequences. No sanctions. No punishment. Not even a formal warning. Calthor's purple skin darkened slightly. The Council must move carefully when dealing with an empire as old and powerful as the Draviks. They control 1,500 star systems. They have existed for 40,000 years. Your species has barely left your homeworld. So might makes right, David said. It was not a question. A new voice cut through the chamber. It sounded like metal scraping on stone. The lesson is that insects do not challenge dragons. The crowd of aliens parted. A massive figure moved forward onto one of the lower platforms. Ambassador Vexenor of the Draviks Empire stood 9 feet tall. His body was covered in scales that looked like armor. Scars crossed his face and arms. Medals of conquest hung from his chest. His claws clicked against the platform as he moved closer to the edge, looking down at David. Your species attacked military installations, Vexenor said. You used weapons that break 17 different warfare laws? Weapons that should not exist. Weapons that your primitive civilization could never have built on its own. And yet, David said softly, 12 of your war planets are now nothing but debris. Vexenor's scales flushed darker with rage. You dare mock the Empire? You stand here alone, human. No allies, no protection. No power. This council will debate for years while you wait. But I can have Earth under blockade within days. I can destroy every human colony beyond your atmosphere within weeks. Every habitat, every station, every ship, all of it turned to wreckage. David smiled. It was not a friendly expression. That would be unfortunate, he said. For you? You threaten me? Vexenor's voice rose to a roar. You threaten the Draviks Empire? No, David reached into his jacket again. This time he pulled out a different crystal. This one glowed with a soft red light. I am informing you that Earth has initiated something called Project Final Dawn. He held the crystal up so every being in the chamber could see it. This contains complete information about a network of devices we have placed throughout the galaxy. While you celebrated destroying Mars, while this council investigated nothing, we were working. 3,000 devices, hidden, armed, waiting. What kind of devices? Calthor demanded. David's smile grew wider and colder. The kind that make your threats meaningless, Ambassador Vexenor. You see, humanity learned an important lesson watching Mars burn. We learned that in a galaxy where might makes right, you need to be mighty. We learned that the best weapon is not the one you use. It is the one you promise to never use unless you have no other choice. He tossed the red crystal toward Calthor. The High Arbiter caught it with a telekinetic field. Inside that crystal is proof of what we have done. Review it, show it to your military experts, your scientists, your best analysts. David's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. And then we will discuss reparations. The chamber exploded into chaos. Aliens shouted in hundreds of languages. Platforms shifted and swayed as representatives stood and argued. Calthor called for order, but no one listened. David Reynolds stood at the center of it all, calm, still, waiting. Project Final Dawn had begun. 3 hours passed before High Arbiter Calthor emerged from the analysis chamber. His 4 eyes looked tired in a way that crossed species barriers. His purple skin had paled to an unhealthy gray. When he spoke, his voice shook. This is impossible, he said. These readings. Human, what have you done? David Reynolds sat in a waiting chamber with 2 other Earth representatives. General Marcus Webb had gray hair and cold eyes. He had been a soldier for 40 years. Dr. Elena Torres was younger, but just as hard. She had designed Project Final Dawn. Both of them had lost family on Mars. We did what we needed to do, Elena said calmly. The crystal contains specifications for every device. It also contains real-time data streams from all 3,000 units. 3,000, Malthor whispered. His insect body trembled. You have positioned 3,000 stellar-grade singularity devices throughout the galaxy. 50 per major sector, Marcus confirmed. Each one can collapse a star system into a black hole. We chose locations carefully. Uninhabited systems near major hyperspace routes, strategic military installations, key trade nexus points. The holographic display updated. A map of the galaxy appeared. Red dots spread across it like a disease. They formed patterns. Geometric shapes that could only be intentional, deliberate, planned. 200 of those devices, Elena continued, are positioned near systems that house council member homeworlds. 500 more are near the busiest trade routes. The rest are distributed to create maximum strategic disruption if activated. You are holding the galaxy hostage, Calther said. No, David stood and walked closer. We are ensuring mutual destruction. The Dravix Empire killed 4 million humans and faced no consequences. We are making certain that if anyone decides to finish what they started, everyone pays the price. This is madness, Vexoner hissed. The massive Dravix ambassador had been called to the analysis chamber to see the evidence. His scales had lost their color. Your species has lost its mind, has it? Marcus pulled up another display. Let me show you something. This is Earth's quantum entangled command network. Every one of those 3,000 devices is in constant contact with our homeworld through faster-than-light communication. Communication that you told us was impossible. If Earth's signal stops for any reason, the devices activate automatically. A doomsday device, another council member shouted from his platform. You have built a doomsday device. Yes, Elena agreed without hesitation. That is exactly what it is. Because we realize something important. You cannot negotiate with a galaxy that respects only power. You cannot appeal to justice in a council that allows genocide without punishment. You cannot trust law when law protects the strong and ignores the weak. She walked to the center of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the silence that followed her words. Humanity was a victim. We were the newest species in space. The weakest. The most vulnerable. The Dravix Empire saw us as prey. When they murdered 4 million of our people, this council did nothing. Your procedures killed those people just as much as Dravix weapons did. We were following established protocols, Calther began. Protocols killed 4 million humans, David interrupted. Your bureaucracy? Your 1,000-year-old systems that make it impossible for new species to receive justice. So we created a new system. The holographic display changed again. Now it showed activation sequences, fail-safes, dead man switches. The complexity was staggering. It would take experts years to fully understand it all. Every 24 hours, Marcus explained, Earth sends a specific quantum signal to every device. If that signal is not received, a countdown begins. Each device has a 48-hour timer. If Earth does not send a secondary confirmation code within that window, the device activates. And if one activates? Malther asked. His voice was barely audible. Cascading failure, Elena said. The destruction of one star system sends out quantum ripples through our network. Those ripples trigger other devices in nearby sectors. Within 1 week, the entire galaxy would experience simultaneous stellar collapse across 3,000 systems. Extinction, Calther whispered. You are threatening extinction of almost every spacefaring civilization. No, David said firmly. We are threatening extinction if Earth is harmed. There is a difference. Project Final Dawn is not an offensive weapon. It is a shield. As long as Earth survives, as long as humanity is left in peace, those devices remain dormant, inactive, harmless. Vexener S. scales had turned almost white. This is insanity. You cannot expect us to accept this. We do not need you to accept it, David said. We need you to understand it. Mars proved that humanity has no allies in this galaxy. No one spoke for us. No one defended us. We were alone. So we built something that ensures we will never be vulnerable again. You have made yourselves the ultimate threat, another council member shouted. Exactly, Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. And now, Ambassador Vexener, about those threats you made earlier. About blockading Earth? Bombing our colonies? destroying every human habitat beyond our atmosphere. The Dravik's ambassador said nothing. That is what I thought, Marcus continued. Because now you understand? If Earth falls, you all fall. If humanity dies, the galaxy dies. We have tied our survival to yours. Every single council member now has a vested interest in keeping humanity safe, prosperous, and very, very happy. The chamber fell into shocked silence. Finally, Calther spoke. His voice sounded hollow. What do you want? David straightened his uniform. First, the Dravik's Empire will pay reparations for Mars, full compensation for every life lost. Every family receives payment. Every destroyed facility will be rebuilt with Dravik's credits. Vexener's crest flared, but he did not speak. Second, a formal apology from the Empire. Broadcast on all frequencies. Admitting the attack was unjust and violated the principles of civilized warfare. Never, Vexener started to say. Third, David's voice cut through like ice. This council will establish new protocols for protecting newly spacefaring species. Real protections. Real enforcement. What happened to Mars will never happen to anyone ever again. And if we refuse? Calther asked quietly. Elena smiled. Then we wait. We have already seen what happens when powerful empires face no consequences. We are simply ensuring that going forward, everyone understands the rules have changed. You are terrorists, Malther said. No, David replied. We are survivors. And we are tired of being victims in a galaxy that worships power. The council chamber erupted again. Voices shouted in hundreds of languages. Platforms swayed as representatives argued with each other. Some called for war against Earth, others called for negotiation. Still, others simply sat in stunned silence, but this time the debate was different. This time they were not deciding humanity's fate. Humanity had already decided it for them. The galaxy would have to adapt to this new reality or risk everything. David Reynolds watched it all with calm eyes. Project Final Dawn was operational. Earth was no longer defenseless, and the galaxy would never be the same. 7 days passed. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions every hour. The greatest scientific minds from 200 civilizations analyzed Earth's data. Every examination reached the same conclusion. Project Final Dawn was real. It was functional. And there was no way to stop it. Dr. Elena Torres sat in a private analysis room with 3 of the galaxy's most famous physicists. Torvan from the Luminate Collective was a being made of crystalline structures. It used tendrils of pure light to manipulate holographic equations. The calculations floating in the air were so complex that Elena barely understood half of them. The quantum entanglement network is extraordinary, Torvan admitted. Its voice sounded like chimes. Your species has achieved instantaneous communication across galactic distances. We believed this was theoretically impossible. Desperation makes excellent motivation, Elena replied. Another physicist spoke. This one was called Whisper. It looked like a floating sphere of colored gas. But these singularity devices, the energy required to collapse an entire star system. This suggests your species has mastered zero-point energy extraction on a scale that should not exist outside theoretical mathematics. Should not exist, Elena agreed. Yet here we are? How? Torvan demanded. Your species has been in space for less than 2 centuries. Our civilizations have studied stellar mechanics for tens of thousands of years. How did you achieve this? Elena leaned back in her chair. You want the truth? Desperation, fear, rage. While Mars was burning, every human scientist was asked one question. How do we make sure this never happens again? She pulled up displays showing Earth's research facilities. Thousands of them scattered across the planet and its orbital stations. We did not sleep. We did not rest. Every human mind focused on a single goal, survival. We took every theoretical paper from the last 200 years. Every wild hypothesis. Every crazy idea that had been dismissed. We tested them all. Most failed. Some worked partially. A few exceeded our wildest expectations. You weaponized the fundamental forces of reality, Whisper said. Reality was always a weapon, Elena corrected. We simply learned to aim it. Meanwhile, in the main council chamber, the political debate continued. Ambassador Vexenor of the Dravix Empire stood at his platform. His voice still held authority, but something had changed. He no longer sounded confident. We cannot allow this to stand, he argued. If we accept humanity's blackmail, every minor species in the galaxy will attempt similar tactics, will they? High Arbiter Calther asked. He sounded exhausted. The Luminate Collective confirms that humanity's technology is unique. They have somehow advanced far beyond normal developmental patterns. Perhaps they had help, suggested Ambassador Rixnell of the Trader Guilds. The Serpentine merchant's eyes gleamed. Perhaps humanity is not as alone as they claim. General Marcus Webb was listening from Earth's delegation platform. He felt a chill at those words. They were too close to a truth the galaxy must never know. If you are implying we have secret allies, Marcus spoke carefully, then investigate. We have provided complete documentation of our research. Every calculation is available for review. You will find no evidence of outside assistance. What Marcus did not mention was the real secret. 300 people had survived the Mars attack. They had been deep in mining tunnels when the bombardment hit. Protected by kilometers of rock, they had listened to their families die on the communication channels. They had emerged from those tunnels 6 weeks later. Changed forever, those survivors had designed Project Final Dawn. Their grief had fueled the breakthrough. Their rage had solved problems that should have taken centuries. But the Council did not need to know that humanity's greatest achievement was born from trauma. The question, Calther said, bringing the debate back to focus, is not how humanity achieved this. The question is what we do now. Dismantle it, Vexenor said immediately. Force them to deactivate every device? And if they refuse? Calther asked, then we use military force? Against a species holding the entire galaxy hostage? Malthor's antennae trembled. You suggest we risk everything on the hope that they are bluffing? I suggest we do not negotiate with terrorists. David Reynolds stood from his seat. His voice carried across the massive chamber. Ambassador Vexenor keeps using that word, terrorist. Let me tell you what real terrorism looks like. He activated a new display. It showed the Dravix Empire's military history. Centuries of conquest. Systematic subjugation of weaker species. 40 civilizations enslaved or destroyed. 600 worlds stripped of resources. Trillions of beings living under Dravix occupation. And when a new species like humanity appears, you test them. You hit them hard enough to break their spirit, but not hard enough to unite them. You want them afraid, compliant, willing to pay tribute. The display shifted to tactical analysis of the Mars attack. You chose Mars because it was remote and civilian. You wanted to prove you could kill us without consequences. You wanted Earth to know that resistance meant death. That is terrorism, Ambassador. That is what terror truly looks like. Vexenor's scales darkened. We acted within Imperial law, your Empire's law, not Council law, not Galactic law, your law enforced through violence. David's voice grew harder. Project Final Dawn is justice, Ambassador. The only justice 4 million dead humans will ever receive. It is revenge, Vexenor roared. No, Elena stood beside David. Revenge would have been activating those devices immediately. Revenge would have been destroying your homeworld. We did not do that. We created a system that prevents future attacks. That is not revenge. That is deterrence. Deterrence through mutual destruction, Calther said quietly. An old human concept, I believe. Your species nearly destroyed itself with such weapons once. We learned from that mistake, Marcus said. We learned that deterrence works only if everyone believes you will use the weapon. We learned that deterrence is better than being defenseless. A new voice echoed through the chamber. It came from a section that rarely spoke. The Observer Enclave. These beings were so ancient that most species considered them myths. They seldom involved themselves in council affairs. The humans have identified a fundamental flaw, the observer said. Its form shimmered like heat rising from stone. Power without accountability creates injustice. The strong prey upon the weak because there are no consequences. This has been true for eons. Are you endorsing their actions? Coulter asked in shock. We are acknowledging reality, the observer replied. Humanity has created balance where none existed. They have made themselves essential to everyone's survival. In doing so, they have achieved what diplomacy never could. They have become equals. The chamber fell silent at those words. The council has a choice, the observer continued. Accept this new reality and adapt, or attempt to maintain the old order through force and risk total destruction. We recommend adaptation. Coulter looked at the assembled council members. He saw fear in hundreds of alien faces, anger, resentment, but also reluctantly a grudging respect. Very well, he said finally. The council will vote on humanity's demands. The vote took 30 hours. When it was finished, High Arbiter Coulter stood before the assembly. His voice was steady despite his exhaustion. By a vote of 127 to 73, the Galactic Council accepts Earth's terms. The Dravix Empire will pay reparations. New protection protocols for emerging civilizations will be established. And humanity's deterrent system will be monitored but not interfered with. David Reynolds felt no joy, only grim satisfaction. They had won, but the cost would haunt them forever. 5 years passed. Humanity became something unique in galactic history. A young species that elder civilizations genuinely feared. Earth's colonies expanded without interference. Trade agreements favored human interests. Human ambassadors spoke at council sessions and were actually heard. Not because of respect, because of terror. It was everything they had wanted. And it was destroying them from the inside. Dr. Elena Torres reviewed psychological reports from Project Final Dawn's command staff. The numbers made her sick. Anxiety disorders up 400%. Depression affecting 60% of operators. 3 suicides in the last year. People who could not bear the weight of knowing one mistake would kill trillions. We are breaking, she told David Reynolds during a secure transmission. The command crews rotate every 6 months, but the trauma follows them. They know what they guard. They understand what happens if they fail. David looked older. Much older than 5 years should make someone. I know. What choice do we have? We dismantle Project Final Dawn and the Dravix comes for us again. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not next year. But eventually? Maybe, Elena said. Or maybe we have been threatening mutual destruction for so long that we have forgotten how to trust. How to build actual peace instead of just maintaining armed standoff. Trust is a luxury for species that have not lost 4 million people. Elena closed the reports. David, I need to tell you something. Something even Marcus does not know yet. What? The devices are degrading. Silence filled the transmission channel for several seconds. Explain, David said finally. His voice was very quiet. The singularity containment fields use quantum-locked exotic matter. We knew when we built them that it was experimental. We knew it might not be stable long-term. But we needed deterrence immediately, so we built them anyway. How long do we have? Device 0001 is already showing micro-fluctuations in its containment field. Within 18 months, the field will fail. The singularity will dissipate harmlessly, but the device will stop functioning. Once one fails, the quantum network's integrity starts degrading. Within 5 years, maybe 10 at most, the entire system will collapse. David stared at something off-screen. Elena could see him processing the information, calculating options, weighing impossible choices. Does the council know? He asked. No, we have been masking the data. The monitoring teams see what we want them to see. Elena, if they discover we have been lying, they will know we were bluffing. They will know Project Final Dawn is dying. They will know humanity is about to lose the only thing keeping us safe. Can we rebuild them? Use better materials this time? Maybe, but it would take decades. And we cannot do it secretly. not with council observers monitoring our every move. The moment we start decommissioning old devices to build new ones, someone will realize they are vulnerable. There will be a window, months, maybe a year, when we are completely defenseless. The Draviks will attack the instant they realize. Yes, David was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that surprised her. What if we tell them? Tell who? Everyone. The council. The Draviks. Every species. What if we make it public that Project Final Dawn is failing? That humanity's doomsday weapon has an expiration date? That is suicide, Elena said. The moment they know we are vulnerable, listen to me, David interrupted. What if we offer to decommission Project Final Dawn voluntarily? We tell the council the system is unstable, that maintaining it risks accidental activation, and that humanity wants to find a better way. They will never agree to anything that leaves us defenseless. We do not ask them to leave us defenseless. We propose something new, a real mutual defense treaty, not based on threats but on shared interest. We offer our technology, the quantum communication network, the singularity research, all of it, in exchange for guaranteed protection. We make humanity valuable not because we are dangerous but because we are useful. Elena laughed without humor. You think the Draviks will agree to protect us? After everything? No, but I think the other 199 council species might. The ones who have benefited from the new protection protocols. The emerging civilizations we have shielded. The smaller species who finally have voices because we force the powerful to listen. David leaned forward. Elena, we have spent 5 years teaching the galaxy to fear us. What if we spend the next 5 teaching them to value us? It is a tremendous risk. Everything is a risk, but this risk is honest. It acknowledges that peace through terror is not sustainable. It offers a path forward that does not require us to threaten annihilation forever. Elena thought about the command crew, about the young woman who had taken her own life last month, about the psychological reports showing an entire generation, traumatized by the weight of those 3,000 red dots on their displays. I will need to tell Marcus. He will fight this idea. I know. The conversation with General Marcus Webb went exactly as predicted. He refused immediately. He argued for hours. He called the plan insane, suicidal, betrayal of everything they had fought for. We dismantle our only defense and we are dead within a year, he said. We are dead anyway, Elena replied. The devices are failing, Marcus. We have built our entire security on a foundation that is crumbling. Then we rebuild them properly this time. We cannot. Not secretly. Not without revealing the vulnerability. And even if we could, do we really want to? Do we really want humanity's legacy to be eternal hostage-taker? Do we want every generation of humans traumatized by maintaining weapons of extinction? Marcus had no answer for that. The argument continued for weeks. Finally, reluctantly, Marcus agreed to bring the proposal to Earth's World Council. Let humanity vote on its own fate. The vote was close. So close that it came down to 7 votes out of billions cast. Fear battled hope. Trauma wrestled with trust. Survival instinct fought against the dream of something better. In the end, hope won by the smallest possible margin. Humanity voted to take the most terrifying risk imaginable. They chose honesty over deception. Trust over threat? They chose to believe the galaxy could be better than it had been. Ambassador David Reynolds stood before the Galactic Council one final time. 5 years had passed since his first appearance. He looked tired, worn, but somehow more at peace than before. Representatives of the Council, he began. I come to make a confession. The enormous chamber fell completely silent. Project Final Dawn is failing. The devices we built to ensure humanity's survival are degrading. Within a decade at most, the entire system will cease to function. Chaos erupted instantly. Voices shouted from every platform. Vexenor of the Draviks Empire was on his feet immediately. His crest flared with triumph. The humans admit their bluff. He roared. They have held this council hostage for 5 years with weapons that do not work. The weapons work, David said calmly. They will continue to work for years yet, but not forever. We could rebuild them in secret. Or we could come before you honestly and propose something better. Better than threatening galactic extinction? High Arbiter Calther asked dryly. Better than peace through fear, David replied. When humanity first came to this council, we came seeking justice for Mars. We were denied. Not from malice, but from systemic failure. The galaxy's power structures favored the strong and ignored the weak. Project Final Dawn changed that, through threat. We want to change it through genuine reform instead. He pulled up a new display. This one showed not weapons, but networks. Communication systems, scientific databases, educational programs. We are offering to share everything. Our quantum communication technology, our singularity research, our zero-point energy systems. All of it freely given to the Council's scientific community. In exchange for what? Mulder asked suspiciously. In exchange for a mutual defense treaty. Real protection for humanity and any other emerging civilization. Not paper promises that break when convenient. A binding agreement with actual enforcement. Why should we agree? Vexener demanded. Once your weapons fail, humanity is nothing. You have no leverage. We have years of leverage, David said. Years during which we could stay silent about the degradation. Years during which uncertainty continues. Years during which the galaxy remains afraid of accidental activation. He paused to let that sink in. Or we could spend those years building something better. Something that does not require humanity to maintain eternal vigilance. Something that protects all emerging species, not just us. Elena Torres stepped forward. We are also proposing supervised decommissioning. Council scientists will oversee the safe dismantling of each device. Complete transparency. And if we refuse? Vexener asked. If we simply wait for your weapons to fail naturally? Then you spend the next decade wondering if we built replacements in secret, Marcus Webb said. Wondering if every stellar flicker is one of our devices. Wondering if this entire confession is itself a strategy to make you complacent. He smiled grimly. Or you could accept our word and help build a galaxy that does not require doomsday weapons for justice to exist. The debate lasted weeks. Species divided on both sides. The Dravix Empire led opposition, arguing humanity could not be trusted. But others supported acceptance, particularly newer council members. Species that had gained protection from the protocols established after Project Final Dawn's revelation. Finally, the council voted. The margin was narrow but clear. The Mutual Protection Treaty was signed in the same chamber where humanity had first revealed. Project Final Dawn, it guaranteed Earth security. It established real mechanisms for protecting all emerging civilizations. It created a council military force with rotating leadership to prevent domination by any single species. It funded development initiatives for younger civilizations. It was not perfect. It would not last forever unchanged. But it was real. It was honest. It was better than the alternative. The decommissioning took 3 years. One by one, the devices were carefully dismantled under council supervision. Each deactivation was broadcast across the galaxy. Visible proof that humanity kept its promises. When the final device shut down, David Reynolds stood with Elena Torres and Marcus Webb. They watched the holographic display as the last red dot turned gray. We are defenseless again, Marcus said quietly. No, Elena corrected. We are protected. There is a difference, is there? We are trusting the same council that ignored us when Mars burned. We are trusting a different council, David said. One we helped create. One with rules we helped write. Is it perfect? No. Will it last forever? Probably not. But it is better than spending eternity threatening mutual destruction. Marcus was silent for a long moment. I hope you are right. So do I, David admitted. But even if I am wrong, at least we tried. At least we proved humanity can choose trust over fear, hope over vengeance. Elena looked at the darkened display where Project Final Dawn's network had once glowed red. We gambled everything, she said. Our entire species on the hope that the galaxy can be better. We gambled on people, David corrected. On the idea that most species would rather live in peace than prepare for war, that they would rather build than destroy. Was it worth it? Marcus asked. 4 million dead on Mars, 5 years under a doomsday threat. All of this. Was it worth it? David thought about the new protection protocols, about younger species gaining real representation, about reforms slowly reshaping the Council, about humanity's colonies growing without fear. Ask me in 100 years, he said. If we are still here, still free, still growing, then yes. Every sacrifice, every risk, every terrible choice was worth it. He turned to face his companions. We lost Mars, we can never get those people back. But we can make their deaths mean something. We can ensure what happened to them never happens to anyone again. Not through threats, through justice. Elena and Marcus exchanged glances. Then together they deactivated the command center's final systems. The displays went dark. The quantum network shut down. The monitoring systems powered off. Project Final Dawn was finished. Earth stood defenseless before the galaxy. And the galaxy tentatively, uncertainly, but genuinely chose to protect rather than prey upon them. It was the beginning of something new. Something built not on the threat of Final Dawn, but on the hope of new beginnings. 20 years later, Ambassador Victoria Grant stood before the Galactic Council as humanity received full council membership. Not as a threat, not as a junior partner, as equals. The vote was unanimous. In her speech, Victoria spoke of Mars, of Project Final Dawn, of the terrible choice humanity made and then unmade. We were victims, she said. Then we became something worse. Then we chose to be neither. We chose to be builders. That is humanity's real power. Not the weapons we can create, but the future we can imagine. A future where strength serves justice, where power protects the vulnerable. Mars taught us we were not safe. Project Final Dawn taught us safety through fear is no safety at all. The treaty taught us that real security comes from shared values and shared hope. We are humanity. We remember our dead. We learn from our mistakes. And we build toward tomorrow. The applause lasted 7 minutes. In that moment, the galaxy learned what Earth had known since decommissioning the last device. True power is not the ability to destroy. It is the courage to trust.